Pastor Cody Deese in Mableton, Georgia, the church is Viking Lakes Church, spoke about what we're seeing right now with the hijacking of Christianity. And it's happening all around. We saw this with the Charlie Kirk Memorial Service. All of these different Christian singers and others, and all of you've been seeing is this whole notion of that we're in a Christian revival and Christianity is under attack. You had the right wing who lied over the weekend when Penn State and Oregon had a football game, and they claimed that 100,000 people in the stadium were wearing Charlie Kirk Freedom shirts when that wasn't the case. It was a whiteout game that Penn State has every single year. But you're seeing this. And you're seeing this constant idea that, well, he was a Christian and he was advancing Christian morals, values, and principles, even though a lot of it was right-wing hate. And so I saw this on Instagram and I said, we need to share this with our audience because we've been sharing many of these messages that have been coming from preachers, mostly African-American preachers all across the country. But I wanted to share this.
Let's just look at this. Jesus defeated death so you can live. Dr. King was an awful human being. Civil rights was a huge mistake. Let's just sit those side by side because that came from the mouth of a same individual. Now you start to see the exterior being a mirror to the interior. Let's go two more. He said, quote, "I believe in the Bible, and I believe that Christ rose from the dead on the third day." He said, "This is the foundation of my faith, and it guides my actions," unquote. Hold it. He also said, let's hold it side by side, black women do not have brain processing power to be taken seriously. You have to go steal a white person's slot, unquote. Now, I want to pause here and say, for the critics who say you're pulling stuff out of context, two things. One, I'm happy, I just don't have time today, happy to give you the full context. Two, the full context does not change the fact that this is racism. Okay, so let's hold those about. Just one more, okay? Quote, "I want to be remembered for courage for my faith. That would be the most important thing for me when I die," unquote. Hold that. One more quote. Quote, "I think it's worth to have a cost of, unfortunately, some gun deaths every single year so that we can have the Second Amendment to protect our other God-given rights." Let's just put those right beside each other. Now, if this makes you uncomfortable, I would invite you to pause for a minute and think about how uncomfortable this makes our people of color feel. And what I want to say to you is, if these quotes that Jesus defeated death so you can live by Charlie Kirk and Dr. King was an awful human being and civil rights was a huge mistake, if these feel incompatible, it's because they are. These quotes are not compatible with each other, and I also would like to say they're not compatible with the teachings and way of Jesus. And what you see in this moment, this week in American history, is you see the twisting of the truth. And this isn't new. The colonizers who came to America said they were Christians. The KKK said they were Christians. There have been mass shooters whose profile said they were Christians. There were insurrectionists on January 6th who flew Christian paraphernalia. They claimed to be Christians. There were, check this out, some of you know this, slave owners who claimed to be Christian. And what I want to say is I can no longer, as a pastor, as a human, and as someone who's given their life to the way of Jesus, I can no longer stand by as Christianity gets hijacked by a particular agenda that is not the way of Jesus. I cannot stand by as a Christian and watch Christ's name get hijacked to further justify hate, racism, bigotry, misogyny, and white supremacy. I believe the path of Jesus is the path of generosity, nonviolence, caring for the poor, the vulnerable, the oppressed, and the marginalized. And part of what I hope comes out of this moment in American history is that maybe, and this is my prayer, maybe what we're seeing is that all of this is surfacing so that we can begin to see just how much the name of Christ has been twisted and turned.
Pastor Cody Deese joins us right now from Georgia. Pastor, glad to have you here. And look, I was so happy to see this because what I have said consistently, and I was talking to Reverend Jim Wallace about this, a lot of black preachers have been speaking on this. And what we are seeing with what Joe Walsh, a former MAGA congressman, longtime friend of Charlie Kirk, he said absolutely is white Christian nationalism. This is not about Jesus. This is not about what Jesus preached about. This is not about the teachings of Jesus. What this is in essence, the moral majority 2.0 on steroids. This is what Paul Weyrich and Jerry Falwell and others wanted to do. And frankly, being a white preacher, I thought it was even more important to hear that from you because too many white preachers have been silent.
Yeah, thanks, Roland. I think it is a crucial message that needs to be said right now. And a part of my story, Roland, just so you know, is I came out of that moral majority type movement. My father was a Southern Baptist pastor. I got my undergrad from Jerry Falwell's university, Liberty University. So I am a product of someone who has been raised and conditioned to see the world in a particular way. And then over the years, I begin to evolve, grow up. My own consciousness began to expand. I began to encounter real human beings that were different than me. And in that process, I began to realize that a lot of what I was raised to believe and what I was raised to see Jesus as did not match what I was encountering in the world around me, and it didn't match what I was encountering when I read the scriptures itself. From the prophets in the Old Testament all the way through to this revolutionary, subversive Jesus, all the way through to the book of Revelation, where John of Patmos is writing some of the most subversive literature in the context of the first century Roman Empire that has ever been written. And when you read those things, as a person like me who has given their life to the way of Jesus, studied the scriptures, I graduated from Candler School of Theology, so I've been educated from people who saw this long before I did. But your eyes begin to open up, begin to expand, and you begin to realize, oh my God, especially me, I have a social intersection that is crucial to be able to speak to my own family members. Sometimes you need to disturb the family text feed. Sometimes there needs to be some conflict. And everybody, seems to be uncomfortable around conflict. But one of the things I've learned is conflict sometimes is the doorway. It is the path that can actually lead us to greater transformation.